Okay, so yesterday we got to, did he get out? What's his name? Alan get out? Did he get a flight? Okay. Okay. So on Perak Yud Dalid, Pasuk Tes. Baruch had asked, we ended yesterday with Baruch had asked that question about, a very important question about always keeping in mind that whatever is forbidden because the Torah says it's forbidden, not for any other reason. And not only that, the extension of your question is that if we're kind to people, we're kind because the Torah says to be kind. If you give tzedakah, you give tzedakah because the Torah says to give tzedakah. And that's the trick. The trick is that when I'm giving tzedakah, when I'm doing somebody a chesed, I have to have a combination of intellect and emotion. Intellectually, I have to realize that I'm doing this because the Torah said so. But I can't treat the person as my mitzvah object. The person has to feel I'm treating him as a person. There has to be a certain compassion. We have to be compassionate people. But we're not doing it out of compassion. We're doing it because the Torah says so. But it has to be with compassion. A very tricky combination. The same thing where, there's a bracha that you make if you see somebody who has got some sort of serious birth anomaly. Let's say a midget. There's a bracha you make, bracha mishane habrios. It's a bracha that you make. I heard a story once about a guy who saw a midget, so he picked up the midget and made the bracha. Mishane habrios, shook him like a lulav. No, you got to retain the human element. We're human beings. Okay. By the way, I have a friend of mine in Chicago, Rabbi Aaron Friedman. He sent me an email. We were talking the other day about fish swimming against the stream. Remember it says fish. Remember we spoke about that? The fish swimming against the stream. We're page 620. Fish swim against the stream. So he told me, my friend Rabbi Aaron Friedman, he told me that Rav Elyashiv said, the Gemara in Kedushin says there's one obligation. A father has an obligation to teach his son how to swim. You know that? There's an obligation. The Gemara says because it's survival. In those days, especially if you traveled by ship, half the time ships went down, so you had to know how to swim through the sharks to get to dry land, whatever it was. Swimming is a basic survival. So Rav Elyashiv Zatzal said, the symbolism of teaching your son to swim is like fish, that we have to know how to swim against the current. The Jews are always swimming against the current. Whatever the current in society is, whatever the values of society are, and we're going against those values, we're going against that current. So the idea of teaching your son to swim is not just physically to swim, it's how to survive against the world, that has values that are opposite of ours. Very interesting, isn't it? That's what Rav Elyashiv said. Okay, take a look. 3 lines from the bottom. This we had touched on this yesterday. We didn't finish this. So Haya bayom hashvi, on the 7th day, Yigalach es kol se'oro, he should shave all of his hair. Es rosho ve'zekano ve'zgabos einav, his hair, his beard, his eyelashes. Ve'es kol se'oro yigalech, and all the rest of his hair. V'chibes es begav rachatz v'sro b'mayim v'tahir. So we had started talking about this yesterday, and we pointed out there's a question. What's the problem here in the pasuk? Look at the pasuk now from a Gemara with a Gemara head. What's the problem in the pasuk?
It shows that it was before forbidden to cut off, and now you have.
And so that's what Baruch mentioned. That the Torah says that you have to do. Okay, that we always have. But in the words of the pasuk, you should have a problem.
Okay, then we had also problem. All his hair.
Yeah.
Repeated, like at first it's like his head, his birth, his eyebrows, and all his hair.
Okay, so two problems. Number one, it says all his hair twice.
Yeah.
Right? It says all his hair twice. Problem number one. Problem number two, before you get to that, it says kol se'oro, all his hair. Well, if you say all your hair, all my hair means all my hair. So then why does the Torah go and specify as rosho vezekano as gabos einav? What, I don't know that I have hair on my head? I don't know that I have hair on my eyelash. I don't know that I have hair, that I have, I don't know that I have a beard. Because I got bigger problems. You don't know. Why is the Torah specify? Why is it going on this? Just say all your hair. And then it says all your hair twice. So I saw one of them, fortunately, says like this, that he wants to address, while you're doing this, be thinking about what got you to this point. Again, the same theme that keeps repeating itself. Your hair, your head is because of your haughtiness, your gaiva. Shave the hair on your head. It says all your hair. Now, while you're shaving all your hair, think about the following: the hair on your head, your gaiva, your self-esteem, your exaggerated sense of self, your beard, which surrounds the mouth area, which is lashon hara, and your eyes, which represents the eyebrows, which represent tzorus ayin. And I told you, tzorus ayin is that concept of feeling bad for other people's success. One of the most difficult challenges, by the way. One of the most difficult challenges is to be happy for other people. I told you, we mentioned this in the past. To empathize with somebody who's going through a hard time is not hard. If somebody chas v'shalom suffers a loss, we give them all of our heart. We feel terrible for the person. And why is it easy to do that? Because whatever that person has, we don't want any of it. We don't want any of it. But when somebody has something successful happens, when somebody gets a good job, or somebody gets a good shidduch, or somebody gets a good parnassa, whatever it is, somebody makes some money, I would like some of that also. That's the problem. I'd like some of that too. So and begrudging people's success is one of the worst things you could do. This happens when it used to happen in Israel all the time. In Israel, people are living in cramped apartments, from families, with 9 kids in 2.5 rooms, and sometimes people, to get a permit to add on to your home, it could take you years, cutting through, and then you may not get it. So people build on illegally. So I'm not getting into whether they should or shouldn't, but then a neighbor calls up the city and they send down inspectors and either fine the guy or make him take down the structure. That's called tzara. Why? What are you getting involved for? What's about it? It's one thing if he's blocking your view. You've got a view, and I added on, and I'm blocking your window. You've got a legal complaint there. That's fine, I understand. But if I'm on the other side of the house, and I build on and add a room because my house is bursting at the seams, you got to go call up there. So in Yerushalayim, apparently in Yerushalayim, they actually get some sort of, if you report somebody. I have heard, I don't know, this is not confirmed, I've heard that you get a bonus of some sort. But if you don't, then why are you snitching? It's tzara sign. I can't do it, I don't like that you're doing it. That I can't have one, I don't want you to have one either. That's tzara sign. In Bnei Brak, which is all from, and it's run by a from mayor and a from city council, they made a law in Bnei Brak that if you call up on somebody, you can't do it anonymously. You see, in Yerushalayim, you can do it anonymously. You can report somebody anonymously. In Bnei Brak, you can't do it anonymously. So that blocked off 95 of the complaints. Nobody wants to be known as the public rat. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that brilliant? A brilliant solution, a simple, brilliant solution. You can complain. You want to complain, but you can't do it anonymously. That takes care of that. So they have no problems in Bnei Brak. In Yerushalayim, there's always a problem. I know, and from personal experience, because we did it. We got reported, and we're pretty sure we know who it was, somebody living on another street. And nothing to do with them. Just miserable people. We had to pay a fine. But when we built on, we factored in the cost of knowing there would be, there's a potential fine. So that's called tzara sign. So you cut the hair, and so it says you cut all your hair. Which hair? The hair on your head. Reminder, while you're cutting your hair, think about the gaiva. The hair on your beard. Reminder, think about your lashon hara because it surrounds the mouth. Your hair on the reminder, tzara sign. Ve'es kol seo, and then it repeats it a second time. Now this I didn't see, unfortunately, it was on my own idea, so you're free to reject it. But my own idea is that the Torah is saying, and any other details you could think of which need improvement. The hair on your arm, well, maybe you're a bit involved in shoplifting or making inappropriate hand gestures at people or punching people or whatever it is that you do, right? The hair, whatever it is, that's called tzara. That's my idea. Okay, now I want to tell you something remarkable here. Take a look at Pasuk Yud Aleph. We're going to tell a story now from the Gemara. Yeah, now we're going to hear a story. So it says on page 622. The Hamid, it's the third line. Now the Kohen in the process, the Kohen takes this guy. Baruch, I trouble you to open that window over there. Thanks. Wow, I got all the drinks lined up over here. Wasn't feeling well this morning either. I was lying down. I got a cold. Got it. Huh? I haven't even used the air conditioning yet. Maybe because I didn't do the air conditioning. That's why. Okay. So in Perak Yid Aleph Pasuk Dal. See, that's how you can read data. Let's read the data. I got a cold and I didn't run the air conditioning. I guess not having air conditioning is bad for you. Okay. Pasuk Yid Aleph, 3 lines of bat. So what does the Kohen do with this guy? V'hemid ha-Kohen ha-mitaher es ha-ish ha-mitaher. The Kohen who's purifying the man, ha-mitaher. The mitaher goes back on the person. Ha-mitaher goes on the Kohen. The Kohen who is purifying, es ha-ish ha-mitaher, who is being purified. Ve'osam, in these items, lifnei Hashem Pesach Ohel Moed. He puts them in the entrance of Ohel Moed. Now take a look at Rashi. Rashi is the right column, 3rd line from the top. Rashi says lifnei Hashem. You see that? Right column, 3rd line. Rashi says, Bishar Nikanor, in the gates of Nikanor. He puts them in the gates of Nikanor. So, why are these gates in the base of English called the gates of Nikanor? You ever hear of Nikanor? The gates of Nikanor? Okay. So the Gemara in Yuma says, Nikanor went to Alexandria of Egypt in order to bring gates for the base of Mikdash. Either copper gate, I think copper, beautiful copper gates for one of the entranceways of the base of Mikdash. Nikanor went to Alexandria and they had it on a ship. And they were bringing the gates back to the port in Akko. And there was a storm at sea. And in the old days, when there's a storm at sea, you start tossing things over. So the first thing they did is they tossed over one of his gates. And Nikanor was so anguished by that he tied himself, the Gemara says he tied himself or clutched onto the other gate. And he said, if you throw this one over, you got to throw me with it. So they didn't. So you're thinking like, all right, well, there we go. No, they didn't. And then they pulled into the port of Haifa, and a miracle happened. The other gate was kind of attached itself somehow, was just floating along with the ship, and they brought these gates to Yerushalayim, and these are called the gates of Nikanor, because a miracle happened with his gates. And normally you throw a gate into the sea, the gate should sink. A copper gate should sink. And they called it the gates of Nikanor. Okay, that's where Nikanor goes. This is called Shar. So this guy is put in the purification process. He's put by the gates of Nikanor. So first question, I had a question, and then I heard Rav Elyashiv answers this question. I actually had this question when I learned the Gemara. You got to give up your life for idol worship, immorality, and murder. You don't have to give up your life for gates. You don't give up your life for gates. Why should I give up my life for a gate? What do you mean? Throw me in. If you're so frum, so you should be saying, throw the gate in. I'm not allowed to hold on to the gate. What kind of business is that? What does that mean? Throw me in with the gate. You can't do that. So I heard Rabbi, and I had this question when I learned the Gemara. Why Nikar is a very nice thing, but you can't just do it. It's not, Judaism is not, it's not free for all over here. There are rules, even when there are rules when you got to die and when you don't got to die. So what happened over here? I heard Rabbi Yashiv said, because apparently these gates were the base of Mikdash, to throw it in would be a chil Hashem. And for a chil Hashem, a person's allowed to give up his life. Nikanor felt it's a chil Hashem. That the gates that were purchased for the base of Mikdash should then go lost. That means Hashem doesn't like these gates. He felt it was a chil Hashem. That's what Rabbi Yashiv suggested. Okay. At the end of the day, what's the connection between those gates and this guy standing at the gates of Nikanor? What do you say? Why specifically at the gates? What's the connection here? So I thought like this. One of the hardest things about Lashon Hara is where people pressure you. Oh, come on, tell me. No, really. Oh, you do know what happened? Why is he in jail? Oh, come on, I know that you know why he's in jail. Come on, tell me. Yeah, you know. Why didn't that shidduch work out? Oh, come on, what happened? Why didn't the guy like her? Come on, tell me the truth. And and I know that you know. And you have pressure, tremendous pressure. I think that's what the connection, what are gates? Gates represent the mouth. And gates represent the mouth. And Nikanor's gates remind us, what did Nikanor do? He guarded his gates in spite of the pressure. They wanted to throw the gates into the rain. He said, no, I'm not letting you throw out this gate. So the connection here is that this is a guy, Lashon Hara, by Shar Nikanor. You have to really work hard to avoid it. You have to really work hard to avoid it. Let's see the next pasuk. It connects to this. Look at pasuk Yud Dalet. Velakacha kohen midama asham, 14. 9 lines from the top. The kohen takes the blood of the asham offering. V'nasan ha-kohen al tznuch ozen ha-mitorin ayemnais. He puts it on the, how does the art scroll translate the tznuch? The middle part of the right ear, which is over here. It's the part in the ear that gets a little, it's hard over here. People think that this is the tznuch. This is not. This is the lobe. This is not the tznuch. The tznuch is like, seems to be over here somehow, where you have cartilage in there. This doesn't have anything where you have cartilage. So the kohen sprinkles blood on his right ear, ve'al bohen yado hayamanis, on his right thumb, ve'al bohen raglo hayamanis, and on his right foot, on his big toe. What's the connection between the ear, the finger, and the toe? And then we'll see how this connects back to Nikanor.
What you hear, what you do, where you go.
You're very good. Very good. There's what the hand always represents the action. The ear is always something hearing, and the feet always represents going. And the Gemara says, "Ragloi de bar inish," a person's feet are raven bay. A person's feet take him where he's meant to go.
But why not mouth?
Oh, so the mouth is obviously, because the mouth is really only the final. Okay, that's according to that. But we got the mouth covered with the beard. Okay, what the Gemara says, the Gemara asks, why are our fingers shaped like pegs? A peg is thicker at the bottom than it is at the top. A peg is kind of like it comes in at an angle. Now the truth is, looking at my fingers don't look like pegs. Right? Your fingers don't look like pegs either. And I was wondering about this Gemara because my fingers are not much thicker at the bottom, a little bit, not much thicker at the base. When is it pronounced? When is it unbelievable? By a baby. Look at a baby's fingers. Baby's fingers almost look like a triangle. The base is much thicker for a little baby than it is of the thing. So Gemara says, why are fingers shaped like pegs? Gemara says, so that if you hear Lashon Hara, you should put your fingers in your ears. And why do we have lobes? Because if you hear Lashon Hara, you should fold it over and close up your ears. Now, let's just make a disclaimer here first. If somebody comes to talk to you, you don't have to go like this. That would be Baal Tshuva behavior. The first thing you do is put your fingers in your ears. There are other things to do. And then you could do like the double coverage. Like in football, you put double coverage on dangerous receivers, right? So the ears are dangerous receivers. You put double coverage on them. There you go, boom, like that. If you have to, you have to. But the first thing is, if somebody's speaking Lashon Hara, I found that the best way to avoid somebody else is blame yourself. Nobody likes it. If you come over, somebody says Lashon Hara, says, that's Lashon Hara. Sometimes they'll say, no, it's not, it's true, it's for a beneficial purpose, to give you an argument. The best way is to blame yourself. Everybody will always let you blame yourself. And so I blame myself. You just say, well, listen, I've been talking about people a lot lately. Maybe we could change the subject. So I didn't say anything about you doing anything wrong. I said me, right? And people don't mind that. People don't mind that, as long as you blame yourself. As long as you're not accusing, number one. Number two, there are other ways to change. And if you have no choice, and nobody, so you put your fingers in your ears, people will get the hint. So the Meforshim say that's what the three things over here represent. The fingers represent the fingers that should have gone in the ear. The tznucha ozen represents the ear that should have been closed up to not hear Lashon Hara, which the Gemara says. And the feet is exactly what you said. If you're in a group of people, if all else fails, what's the best thing to do? And they're all talking Lashon Hara, what's the best thing to do? Walk away. Nobody tied you down. Nobody forced you to be there. So you heard Lashon Hara, so walk away. And therefore, those are the three things. The same thing by Nikanor. There's pressure, and it's hard. Sometimes, and I'm sure it's happened to you where you're in a situation, you could be at a Shabbos table, and you're like, I don't know if that sounds like a pretty good raw, unadulterated Lashon Hara. So there the halacha is you're not allowed to believe it. And if you have to, just keep walking away. Just keep walk away. Get up and walk away. I know a guy, he's not a guy, he's a Talmud Chacham, one of the strongest-willed people I've ever met. Really an uncompromising person when it comes to Torah and halacha. And he had to get from Yerushalayim to go somewhere, and he stopped the car. You know, people hitchhike. And he stopped the car, and he gets in, and there are these, some yeshiva guys gave him a ride. I think he had to go from Yerushalayim to Bnei Brak or something. And he's on the highway, and these guys are talking politics. And he had no problem. He just said, "Hey, do you mind not talking about that? It's Lashon Hara." "No, it's not Lashon Hara, it's politics." He says, "I don't want to hear it. It is Lashon Hara. It's from politicians, and that's Lashon Hara." Okay. Then they started talking it again. This was a few minutes. He said, "Please stop the car. I'm getting out." He got out in the middle of the highway. Couldn't listen to Lashon Hara. Got out in the middle of the highway. I don't want to hear that. Unbelievable. I was very impressed. You got another guy. Got a guy, he's playing for keeps. There's a guy who's playing for keeps. No compromise. He's playing for keeps. So by the way, I saw a story just now. There's a guy in America in the 20s, 30s, where the immigrants, when they came to America, and even in the 40s afterward, they came to America, if you didn't show up at work on Saturday, don't bother coming back on Monday. You got fired on a regular basis. That was the rule in America, and everybody knew that. That's why a lot of people succumbed to the temptation. It was very difficult. They had no parnasa. They had to keep going finding new work every week. It was very, very difficult temptation. Very, very difficult. There were people who went to shul Shabbos morning from men, went to shul, and then got on the train and went to work. It was a very difficult temptation. Very, very difficult. There were people who were able to overcome it, but it was very difficult. So there was one man who came to America, and he couldn't find a job. He came from Europe. He couldn't find a job. So he had some job in some, remedial workplace. And there were always 10 people waiting to replace you also. That was a problem. So he had a job in some clothing factory. And then the first Shabbos, Saturday, came along. And the guy said to him, you don't come. He didn't come, got fired. Got another job, got fired. Finally, he found a job as a maintenance man in a fancy company building. It was a big company, and he became the maintenance man. And he was washing the floors, and he even made a deal with the boss, the first boss. He said, "Listen, I won't come in on Saturday. Saturday night I'll come in and I'll clean up the building. It'll be fine. Saturday night I'll clean up the building." Okay. So he's working there, and he has a steady parnasa. It wasn't much, a steady parnasa for a few good few years at his parnasa. And then one day, after he'd been there for a while, I think over a year he'd been there. One day the boss calls him in, Mr. Smith calls him in. He says, "Listen, Goldstein, I need you to come in on Saturdays." He goes, "I'll come in Saturday night." He says, No, I need you on Saturdays. He says, listen, I don't want to hear about it. You come in on Saturdays or you lose your job. I can't have you. I need you on here on Saturdays. He says, "Yeah, but," he says, "I'm the boss, not you. I'm the boss, not you. You come in on Saturdays, you lose your job." So they're not coming in on Saturdays. Not coming in on Saturdays. Okay. So he goes to what do you call it? He loses the job. Goes around, he can't find another job. Can't find another job. 1 month goes by. Things are rough. Okay, they still have a little. Second month goes by. Third month goes, they got to borrow some money. Fourth month goes, they got to borrow some more money. Fifth month goes by. 6 months, and now nobody's going to lend the money. He goes to the last guy who lent him. He says, "You haven't paid back. It's almost coming due. I can't lend you. What am I going to do?" Guy didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, he gets a knock at the door. Who is it? Mr. Smith is at the door, and he's got another guy with him, Mr. Johnson. He says to him, "Goldstein, this is my partner, Johnson. Now, Johnson and I want to invest in a big business, and we need somebody reliable. I told Johnson you're the most reliable person that I know because you're a man of principles." Johnson says, "Nobody has got that much principle. We made a bet 6 months ago for $10,000. I told Johnson, you're not going to go against your principles." And Johnson said, "He'll hold out for a month." I said, No, he's going to hold out. He says, "He'll hold out for a month, maybe 2, not 6 months." And we made a $10,000 bet. It is now 6 months. You notice you couldn't get any other jobs. We were preventing you from getting the jobs. Here's $10,000. The money is rightfully yours, and we want to hire you to be the guy in charge of the investing, some position, and he was set for life. Principle. You got some people play for keeps. Some people are playing for keeps. So this guy, when it comes to Lashon Hara, also there are people. His guys playing for keeps. Guy got out of a car on the highway. That's the what do you call it? So the
question.
Yeah.
What do you do when your relatives say that? Like, Lashon Hara. I mean, like, in one
There is no permissibility, there's no heter to listen to Lashon Hara from relatives, except there are certain circumstances where somebody needs to vent. If you come home and your wife needs to vent, something happened at work and somebody mistreated her, there is a heter there. But you got to be very careful otherwise it's every night she needs to vent. Every night you need to vent. That's why I told you when I was going on Shidduchim, and I recommend this, the first thing I was looking for, the first quality I was looking for, money. Didn't find that, so I had to go to number 2. The main quality I was looking for, or was certainly high on my list, very high on my list, is that the young lady is not interested in talking about people. Because if she is, then you're going to live a whole life of racking up averas, speaking Lashon Hara, number 1. Number 2, it's an indication of a personality. If you're looking down, if you're negative on other people, you're going to be negative on life. If she's finding the flaws in other people, she's going to find the flaws in you also. That was very important to me. Somebody who's got to be, because that means it's an upbeat person. Somebody who's always looking for, like, this guy, I don't like his shirt, and this guy, I don't like his attitude, this guy, I don't like the way he behaves, I don't like the way he talks, I don't like everybody's got something to say. Something negative about everybody. How can you live like that? You live like you're going to rack up millions of averas. So I always recommend, more than the practical side of it, of the averas, is just to get an indication of her character. I mean, she should be looking for that in you also. But for a young man to marry a girl, because she really creates the mood in the home. She is the home. And so the with relatives, you can't. It's not people think, oh, it's my relatives, so it's okay to talk about. No, it's not. No, it's not. And it's a bad habit, and it does not bring bracha into the home. And sometimes you walk into homes, and it's all of a sudden people. I tell people, we have a rule. I tell people, come back from shul on Shabbos. So you go to shul, they had the frum community. This one had a baby, and this one got engaged, and this one got a what do you call it? Got married. Mazel tov, mazel tov. So sometimes you sit down at the table. What are the mazel tovs in shul? And then mazel tov, the Cohens had a baby. Really? Oh, I know Cohen's brother-in-law. That guy. I heard some. And you're off to the races. I say to my family, tell me my mazel tov. Cohen had a baby. Levin got engaged. Israel got married, mazel tov. Let's make kiddush and get on to something a little more. Talk about anything. I let my kids talk about anything you want at the Shabbos table. Let my family talk. There are only 2 things I want: Lashon Hara, no, and no Israeli politics. Because Israeli politics we talk about all week, and that's sports in Israel. Talk to me about anything. You want to know about the mountains in Switzerland? I'll talk about mountains in Switzerland. You want to talk to me about chocolate factories? I'll talk about chocolate factories. Talk to me about anything you want. But not Lashon Hara and not politics. Leave the names out. Don't mention names. There's no need for it. There's no need. No names. Just leave the names out. What do you got to mention a name for? And if you're made, but you really got to attack it it's got to be attacked at the source. The curiosity. The curiosity is the real source. What really happened? It doesn't matter. It's going to affect your life. How's it going to help you to know that? And you walk away shaking your head like, oh, wow. So what did that help you? What did you gain from that? So at that point, back off. Okay, one more idea. Take a look at Perek Yudalad Pasuk Chaf Aleph. And again, we got a problem here. 3 lines from the bottom. So a regular person brings an animal as a korban. And then the Torah says at the bottom of 622, watch this because we got another problem here. V'im dal hu, how did the article translate? I want to present, if he is poor. Ve'en yodo maseges, he cannot afford it. V'lokach keves echad osham litznufa l'chaper lov, he takes 1 sheep. V'isaran solas echad bolul b'shemen l'mincha v'log shaman ushtei sori b'shtei b'nei on 2 birds. Whereas the other guy has to bring an animal offering. Now, here we also have a problem. It's going to be very interesting, the reconciliation here. It says v'im dalhu. What's a dal? A poor man. Ve'en yado maseges, and he can't afford it. Understand, if he's poor, then he's Ein Yadam, then he can't afford it. Why does it, again, a double terminology? When does a person get to bring the downgraded offering? If he's poor. So how does the Torah describe the poor man? If he's poor, Ve'ein yado maseges, and he can't afford it. Well, when you're poor, you can't afford it. That's what a poor man is he can't afford it. So just say poor, or just say he can't afford it. Why do you need the double terminology? That's a question. So one of the Farshim explaining this, there are two types of poor people. There's a poor person who's what we call, the poor guy who's got no parnasa, that sort of the standard class of guy. There's another, that's not a dal. You know what a dal is? Dal comes from the word, it's related to the word, it means to be reduced. A guy who has $1 million and wakes up the next morning in the stock market crash and now he's only got $500,000, he's a dal.
He's poor?
He's been reduced. He's been reduced. So the Torah wants to emphasize over here like this. If a guy's a dal, that means he's been reduced. That's not enough of a qualification to bring the poor man's offering. It has to be literally ve'ein yado maseges, you actually can't afford it. You lost $500,000, I feel bad for you. But you could still afford to bring the standard offering. You don't need a poor man's offering. You need two things. You need to be dal, but you have to be reduced to the point that you are ein yado maseges, that you can't afford it. So then the Torah said the obvious question, so what about the opposite way? So the Torah should have just written, if you got a guy who can't afford it, ein yado maseges, literally ein yado maseges doesn't mean he can't afford it. How does the article translate it?
And his means are not sufficient.
His means are not sufficient. Ein yado maseges means you can't, really it means you can't reach it. If the Torah would have only said ein yado maseges to bring the regular korban, you might have thought that means if it's an inconvenience that nobody around here is selling calves and nobody around here is selling sheep, what should I do? No. Im dalhu. It's got to be that you can't reach it because of poverty. So you need it in both directions. Do you understand? If it only said you reduced, so I might have thought that a wealthy man who's lost money is included. No, you got to be reduced to the point that you can't afford it. And if it only said you can't afford it or you can't reach it, we might have thought that even if it's an inconvenience or you can't find one or you got to exert yourself. Therefore, the Torah says, Im dalu. You need both factors over here. You need that you are a poor man, you can't find or reach this offering because of monetary concerns, not because of an inconvenience and no one around here is selling sheep or whatever the case happens to be. So, but the word dal means that your money is reduced, which obviously is why when I walk into the house, I say, hey, dal, how are you? Because that's who reduces your money. Your wife's a dal. Oh, yeah. She's here. You've got now money. You now have less money than you did previously. That's a dal. A dal means somebody who's been reduced. So the Torah has to cover both aspects of it. Okay. Now, I first of all, two announcements. Number one, anybody on Torah Anytime who has purchased or YouTube, if you've purchased the Haggadah Rhymes, leave it. No, leave it. If you purchased the Haggadah Rhymes and you have paid, but you have not sent me your email, please send me your email address so I could send you the Haggadah Rhymes, number one. Number two, we will have shir tomorrow, is Wednesday, and then the last shir is going to be Sunday morning. Sunday morning next week is going to be the last Parsha shir. Monday is already Erev Yontif, and we're not going to be meeting over Pesach, and then Ben Hashem, we will continue the day after Pesach. Okay.
On